Hello, my name is Teresita Blanco, the Artsy sister, and we're reading Saturnastra Melina. This is chapter 14, Damage Control. Since the Godliness Sassari until the end of the year, at New Year, during the celebration of the new sun, a group of rebels attacked Veragero. After much interrogation, the source of the rebel faction happened to be in Sassari. This naturally roused suspicion of the Berserkers' lords, and some even hinted that Impede had allowed the faction to grow as an attempt to test the defenses of the capital. In the end, there was a summons to the capital. Melina volunteered to go answer the summons, and she was accompanied by Lucrezia as well. A member of La Divina bloodline was necessary in order to validate the meeting. Melina took along Ceric and Augustus as her two bodyguards. The choice of having Ceric come along seemed a bit arbitrary since he was going to be completely useless in Veragero. Bertame had a special pendulum that suppressed magic within his palace, and the location of such a pendulum was unknown. In the second month, Melina's small body was picked up by a band of Berserker lords. Lord Celo was among them, and he rode with Melina within Melina's carriage, and Augusta was sitting beside her, and Lucrezia and Celo rode in a different carriage. Along the way, Lord Celo spoke to Melina as thus: "It was a mistake for you to come." "I do not agree with you, Lord Celo," responded Melina. "My cannibalism suspects of you participating in rebel activities. You answering the summons only serve to prove such rumors," continued Lord Salas. "Rumors are rumors, my lord," said Augustus, "and you should know that better than anyone." True, and he added, "It still does not change the fact that His Highness would always act in his best interest, for better or for worse. I have gotten out of stickier situations before, Lord Sailor dear. If anything, I will throw the dog a bone for him to maul at," said Melina. Lord Sailor laughed in spite of himself, and shaking his head sadly, he said, "Ah, Melina, you never change, do you?" "Why bother changing? It is very rare for people to change for the better," said Melina, looking out the window. "She is fine the way she is, my lord," said Augustus in earnest. Melina's party arrived to Veragero in the 4th month, and Lucrezia was overwhelmed by the magnitude of the new city. The smallest building was at least 5 stories high, and the roads were large and well paved, and it seemed to Lucrezia that one could easily eat off the ground. Cedric and Augusta had been to Veragero before, so they were hardly impressed. It seemed to them that the city was always expanding, and the crowning jewel of the city was the palace. It rose like a mejime from the stones of the mountain, and according to legend, Bersame had carved the entire palace himself from the mountain wall. Some stories claim that he single-handedly completed the palace in a month, while others claim that it took him at least a year. Bersame was said to be possessed by a feverish energy whenever he was working in an architectural project, and as of late, Bersame had been heavily invested in the infrastructure of the kingdom. The rebuilding project had been a welcome boon to revitalize the agrarian economy of the area, and aside from damage control, Melina was supposed to attract one of such projects to Sassari. The only investment of the cities came from Impedia, and she did this to buy her people's loyalty, and for this reason, Impedia's request was a bit unusual. As for Lucrezia, she was set there to make contacts. Impedia was starting the slow transition of power was starting to slowly transition power and influence to her daughter, and when Lucrezia entered the audience house, she was smitten by the bizarre architecture, the blue dragon colors, the azure and marble. It was all quite mysterious and very beautiful. Her bewilderment turned to fright when her eyes landed on Bersame, and the rumors didn't even come close to the truth. Indeed, Bersame was a beast of a man, and a living chimera of all of the humanoid species put together, and it was also Cedric and Augustus' first time looking at their king. And Augustus' knight trying to help him maintain eye contact, though his eyes could not disguise his shock. And Cedric used his hood as an excuse not to make eye contact with the king. He was as afraid that the man was going to turn him to stone. Only Melina watched Bersame coolly. King Bersame wore a golden ceremonial armor, and he normally wore his blood red armor on such auspicious occasions. However, it had gotten badly damaged in a recent battle. Behind Bersame sat in golden cushions 7 elders, and they were the brains behind Veragero's entire operation. Overall, there were 21 members of the High Councils. However, the bulk of them were handling other businesses around the continent. It was very rare for all 21 of them to be gathered in the palace. Bersame regarded his guests with cool disdain, and he chuckled when he noticed Melina meeting his terrifying red eyes. She too mirrored his eyes in both hue and intensity. She bowed as did the rest of her companions, and her bow was a slight curtsy while the rest prostrated themselves to avoid gazing at Bersame. Bersame chuckled and said, "Rise, I am your lord and guardian, King Bersame, and I make it my sworn duty to maintain peace and order in the realms. As long as you obey my laws, you do not need to fear me. It is a pleasure to meet you, King Bersamin, said Melina, standing erect, and her companions followed in suit. Flattery will get you nowhere, my dear, though I do find your candor quite endearing, said Bersamin, smiling, and Lucrezia noted Bersamin's perfect white teeth. No, it is you who flatters me, your highness, said Melina, bowing again. I find traditional palace etiquette to be quite banal and devoid of meaning. You will find that palace life in Veragueron is quite unlike anything you are used to, said Bersamin more to Lucrezia than Melina, and he added, now to address the matter at hand. Some of my generals are under the impression that the estimada and impedia la divina allow a little rebellion to flourish for the sole reason of testing my fortifications. Do you care to explain this? Even you must admit that this little conspiracy theory is a bit far-fetched. Surely there is no need to test your fortification. It is common knowledge that the fortitude of your architectural powers, your highness, said Melina. That may be true, but it still does not change the fact that the Madame la Imperia knowingly housed rebels in her domain, insisted Bersamin. The seeds of rebellion are endemic to every form of modern governments, and even Madame la Imperia has people living within her own domain that would dare challenge her authority. A ruler cannot be bothered with every little ant he must step upon. Such is the game of my mistress. She underestimated the seriousness of their intent, and a mistake she promises to rectify, said Melina, making excuses. A pitiful excuse, said the mad queen, entering the scene. Librana belonged to an unknown noble clan, and she was married off to Bersamin at the age of 10 with the hopes of restoring her family's wealth. Instead of helping her family, she influenced Bersamin to eradicate them. Ever since then, Librana earned the nickname the Mad Queen. A pleasure to meet you as well, my dear Libra, said Melina, bowing. It is Librana, my dear little minx. And are you the sacrificial little lamb sent from the Imperia's palace? Inquired Librana, sitting in her throne beside Bersamin. Librana was at the time 60 years old, and she was the oldest of Bersamin's consorts, and the de facto queen of Veragueron. It is not my intention to pay for my mistress's mistakes. I only came here to inform His Highness of my mistress's criminal neglect of her duty. Nothing more, said Melina, maintaining eye contact with Librana. While she gazed at Librana, Melina's eyes were black, in the same colors as the queen. Only Bersamin noted the discrepancy between Melina's emotions and her eye color. Librana, laughing coyly, said, I see, so you admit that Impedia neglected her duties. It is just an observation, nothing more, and at the time it seemed to me that my mistress was far more preoccupied with family matters than to take a rebellion seriously. And I would not even go as far as to call an army of 237s a true rebellion, said Melina. Ah yes, my dragons made mice, so the bulk of them in less than 10 minutes, said Bersamin, sneering. Truly, I think my lords are taking this out of proportion. The group's true intent was to cause unrest, nothing more. They were not planning on actually winning, and such vain tactics will only grow more common if punished through exaggerated means. And the culprits have been dealt with, and their family members have been stripped of their rank. Let's leave it at that. It does not go well to be constantly chasing at shadows, said Melina, brushing off the problem altogether. Bersamin was silent for a moment, and his elders spoke in harsh whispers to one another. In the end, one of them rose from the ground and whispered something to Bersamin's ear. Bersamin nodded and then said, Madame Imperia will be pardoned of her crimes under the condition that she resigns from her post, and from here on out Lucrezia la Divina will take over her duties, and she will also remain in Veragueron for the duration of 5 years. At that moment Lucrezia understood her mother's tearful goodbye, and she thought that she was just being melodramatic. She never did understand why her mother had worked so hard to try to make Augustus her true legitimate heir, and in the end her mother had failed to protect her daughter from Bersamin's court. Lucrezia was to become the proper ruler of Sassari. Lucrezia was silent with downcast eyes, and she was secretly hoping that Melina would convince Bersamin to change the verdict or to take her place. Melina's silence was not promising. After hearing Bersamin's sentence, Lucrezia was escorted to a room which was to become her permanent home for the next 5 years. It seemed to her that she was going to be serving her mother's sentence in her stead. She was angry at her mother for not warning her, and she was angry at Melina for not defending her. However, Lucrezia was angry at herself, and as soon as clarity returned, she realized that her petty jealousies had been her undoing. And Lucrezia stayed in her bed till dusk, and in the meantime, Augustus, Sassari, and Melina were walking the palace ground. Time, bro?
14 minutes.
Augustus walked closer to Melina to whisper something. Melina brushed him aside and shook her head sadly. Augustus then realized that everyone was pensive about everything they said, and as for Sarah, he was busy counting beneath his breath, and Augustus was far too nervous to casually observe the marvelous architecture which surrounded him. And to distract them, they were approached by Undine. Undine was one of the sages, an nymph like Melina, and she casually saluted Melina by saying, "Hello, are you the infamous Melina? The one who turned one of our men into flowers, was it?" "What a shankly exposition. Care to try again?" said Melina, bowing. Undine took a deep sigh before continuing. "In what way are you a nymph?" "Is this an official interrogation, or are you just curious?" inquired Melina. "A little of both, and I want to know what sort of magic you wield, and I will find one way or another, so you might as well tell me," insisted Undine. "I have business to attend to in the city, and I will indulge your curiosity at another time," said Melina, bowing. Undine detained Melina by grabbing her shoulder, and then she allowed Melina to go. Augusta was a bit suspicious, but Melina simply yawned to illustrate her boredom. Augusta saw a strange gooey syrupy liquid in the palm of Undine's hand, and did not know what to make of it. Augustus walked beside Melina, followed by Sere, who was starting to fall behind, and both waited for Sere to make it to the entrance. When Augustus thought he was out of earshot, he asked, "What was that in her hand?" "Maple syrup. Why do you ask?" asked Melina. "I sometimes wonder about the past strange power you wield," commented Sere outside the palace, and he was about to say more, but Melina closed his mouth with her hand. "And why did I ever bring you two along? Barrett knows how to hold his tongue, and Franny never realized what's going on around her, but you two need to learn some discretion," said Melina, shaking her head sadly. "My apologies, Melina. I don't get out much," Sere then said to Augustus. "So what's your excuse?" Together with Melina, they made their way through the city, and they visited about 12 gaming houses. Since it was Melina's first visit, she cleaned them out, and on the way of the last one of the owners wanted Melina to share part of her earnings. And he said angrily, "I know you cheated, so give me half your earnings, or I will call the guards." "I am a guest of His Highness. Call the guards and see what happens, mister," said Melina. The owner made a signal, and there were 10 archers flanking Melina's party in the alleyways. And Melina and her party ran through the back alley, and the roads were still hot on their heels, and from time to time one would shoot an arrow at Melina or one of her friends. However, the arrow, though closely hidden, always missed, and Melina then bound to Lord Sailor and his party, and the group of rogues kept to the shadows and then eventually left them all together, out of fear of Lord Sailor. Lord Sailor had seen and recognized a few of them. He asked, "Were those men bothering you, Melina?" "Not really. I would much rather you forget this entire incident altogether," said Melina, looking in the direction of her assailants. Augustus reclined against her wall while Cedric sat on a bench trying to regain his breath. He smiled when he noted the flowering trees providing shade. Truly, Veragedon was quite a beautiful place to live in, even with the berserker overlords. Lord Sailor frowned and said, "You are far too soft, Melina. I prefer the term merciful and forgiving, words that your lot are not familiar with," said Melina. Augustus heard one of the guards comment, "Is she allowed to talk to you like that, my lord?" "And besides, I can take care of myself," and Sere, "Get up and we have to go to work," said Melina, walking towards Sere, and she poured out his hood to get his attention. Sere rose silently and limply, and while walking about with Melina, Augustus offered to lend Sere a hand, and he brushed her aside and said, "I don't need your help, I can walk just fine on my own." Augustus was taken aback by his uncharacteristic remark, and then she saw him give a sardonic smile and wink. Melina started laughing hysterically, pointing at them, and Augustus realized that their efforts to look unsuspicious were rousing a lot even more suspicion. All of their eyes were watching them as they passed through the streets, or maybe Melina's words were starting to make Augustus paranoid, and Sere stood to the people's suspicions with a grain of salt, and he was used to being stared at since he was a magus. However, this was a new experience for Augustus, and he was relishing to see how this was affecting him. The next place Melina visited were the curiosity shops, and she browsed through random assortments of trinkets and ornaments, and she always ended up buying something or another, and in the last shop, Augustus inquired, "Why are you buying a rabbit's foot?" "For good luck," said Melina, giving the charm to Augustus. "Since when are rabbit's foot's lucky?" inquired Sarah. Melina shrugged her shoulders in response, and she then said, "One of my friends back in Sassari wanted a good luck shop, and he seems to use charms to win the games of chance." "Could have fooled me," said Sarah. Around that, Sarah was getting pretty hungry, and Melina was visiting the poor's residential district, and as before, she sat beside an old man for an undetermined amount of time. And when another man passed, Sarah pleaded, "Please, sir, give me a bit of money so I can buy some food. I am starving." The nobleman was moved by the bench's plea, and he handed Sarah a bag of 30 coins. The Lord then said, use this money to live at Agarum. This is no place for wizards. There is no place for wizards in this city. A few minutes later, a young baker shop passed by, and he was in the middle of making a delivery. Again, Cedric pleaded, can I have a piece of bread? I am starving. I feel as if I had not eaten for days. The baker's boy was moved by pity when he saw the mage's robe, and he gave Cedric a loaf of bread. Cedric devoured it eagerly, and Augustus was too proud to beg for money, still from time to time. And no veteran gave her a coin or two. And when some felt Augustus was compelled to ask, I do not see why you repeat the same routine here as well as in Sassari. Melina sneered and said, it is a little something I like to call publicity. I do things repeatedly so that whoever needs me can easily find me. And what does publicity have to do with taking a stroll across the town? Inquired Augustus. You know nothing of my work, said Melina sadly. Time, bro?
8 minutes.
At night, Melina went to the bark and said it went with her. While Augustus returned to the castle at Melina's behest, it was a good thing too because Lucrezia was inconsolable. And while in the bar, Melina opened a parasol she found lying in the street, and she then sat at the bar with Cedric, and the barkeep, an old dwarf woman, came to her and asked, what will you be having today, honey? Melina placed a few coins on the table and said, nothing for me, though I am paying for this fine gentleman's drink, and give him a mug of your finest mead. I have milk for you if you prefer, said the barkeep, chuckling. No, thank you. The terms of my covenant require that I fast for long periods of time, explained Melina. If you are a religious type, what are you doing in a bar dressed like a whore? Inquired the barkeep. What's your tongue, madam? And I will not tolerate such insults in front of my esteemed companion, said Cedric, shaking his fist. She did not mean anything by it, said Melina. And it is true, I am indeed dressed like a whore. How so? I did not notice, commented Cedric. Just as your mages wear robes, we courtesans and prostitutes have our own unique attires. There is the ruby ring and the less pinky, a choker or a necklace with a round pendant, a flower ornament of sorts, high heels with ribbons, showing off your chest and the like, explained Melina. But you do not wear anything remotely close to what you describe, commented Cedric, looking at Melina from head to toe. True, but my clothing is a bit more revealing, even by prostitution standards, said Melina, chuckling. Then why has no one approached you at all, they asked Cedric. Because I am an unfamiliar face, said Melina, giving another coin to the barkeep, who was eavesdropping on the conversation. That's a new face, cause the city of Aragon, new faces are sus. She's a new face, uber sus. Even though it's like a huge city, everyone knows who everyone is. We don't know who this is and we're nervous. Cedric powdered his lip and he looked at Melina from head to toe, and he gulped the honey mead, and then he commented, I do not mean to offend, but I never once found you remotely attractive, nor any of the other maidens that I showcased in the palace. Maybe because you are a fear babe, or not a person, said the barkeep. Cedric felt his masculinity insulted, but he chose not to retort. And after drinking a mug or maybe a fizz, he said, Madam Barkin, now that I think about it, I don't remember ever seeing a dame in the tower. And there was a time I thought there was a woman or two, but about closer impaired, and they turned out to be girly men. I am not surprised at the barking. The four person and women were already taught how to read, and it may not seem like it, but our condition has improved greatly in these past 200 years. On the whole, the human lot tends to be forgetful and rebellious of any signs of authority, said Melina, yawning, and she rested her head on her hand. I'd be ashamed, though the same could be said of other species, mind you, said the dwarven barkeep, cleaning the table. By now Cedric only had a vague idea of his surroundings, and he had lost track of how many mugs he had drank. And the last thing he remembered was Melina talking with someone, and when Cedric awoke, he was in one of the guest rooms in the palace. Augusta was sleeping in an armchair beside him. Time, bro?
5 minutes.
Oh yeah, I'm finished this chapter.